Hi guys, imagine the most embarrassing thing you've ever done in public. I'll give you a moment to think about that. But as you do, imagine uploading a video onto social media 2 years later to remind the world of that toe curling event. Liz Truss, I believe, is somebody who can actually operate without a functioning brain. Because on the second anniversary of the mini-budget, she jumped onto social media to remind the world of what she had done. Not just to her own career, but to the UK economy. Also, what is with the arrangement of the books by colour?
2 years ago today, we launched the mini-budget to reverse Britain's economic decline and to get our country growing again. If the mini-budget hadn't been undermined by...
Okay, before we continue, when you want financial news and information, who do you go to? Well, obviously you go to the Daily Mail and the Express. Okay, for example, from the Daily Mail the day after the mini-budget, at last, a true Tory budget. From the Express, go for growth, big tax cuts herald new era. And of course, once again from the Daily Mail, biggest tax cuts for 30 years. So obviously, if you want unbiased financial information, you go to the Daily Mail and the Express, because you wouldn't want to go to, for example, the Financial Times the day after, who said this: how Kwasi Kwarteng's mini-budget broke the UK bond market. Or you wouldn't go to some left-wing rag like The Economist that said the fallout from Kwasi Kwarteng's mini-budget continues. But let's get back to the financial expert that is Liz Truss.
By the economic establishment. Things would be different now. The economy would be growing. People would be paying lower energy bills thanks to getting on with fracking. Corporations would want to locate in the UK because of our relatively low tax rates.
Okay, a few things to say about this. When it comes to fracking, look, whatever, and we've said this before, whatever gas is extracted, it's sold on the international market, so that's not going to help Britain. When it comes, where is this information she's getting from the UK with the mini-budget? You know, the corporate tax rates, so they would reduce the corporate tax rates. How would that help Britain? Because once again, when it comes to being outside the European Union, it's very difficult to attract investment. You know, Tories like Liz Truss and others will say, well, if we reduce corporation tax, we'll attract all this investment. Look at Ireland. Of course, ignoring the fact that Ireland's corporate tax rate is a bit all over the place. It's not so precise, but also Ireland is part of the European Union.
The self-employed would be doing more business thanks to improvements in IR35. And we would see a more dynamic, go-getting economy. But that didn't happen because the mini-budget was undermined by the economic establishment.
You see, once again, it's always somebody else's fault. In typical Tory style, not my fault, not that we tried to push something through that wasn't costed. No, it's the financial establishment. It's the economic establishment. It's them. They were out to get us. Not that we actually hadn't put our sums together correctly. Not that we had relied on the likes of Tufton Street to come up with the figures. No, it's that we ignored how to actually do our jobs.
The day before the mini-budget was announced, the Bank of England announced the sale of £40 billion worth of gilts. And they failed to properly regulate the pension markets and LDIs, creating financial instability. They've admitted that 2/3 of all the spike in gilt prices around the time of the mini-budget was down to them and their failure to regulate the market properly.
And the rest? If that's even true, and the rest, who is it down to? It's down to you and your mini-budget.
The Office of Budget Responsibility leaked that there was a £70 billion black hole in the public finances. This subsequently turned out not to be true. But by then, it was too late. My government was forced out of office.
It's always somebody else's fault with Liz Truss. It's the OBR's fault, it's the Bank of England's fault, it's the media's fault, it was every economist's fault, it was always somebody else's fault. So if you're a responsible government, you would have made sure that you had put in place the figures correctly. You would have checked it with the OBR. You would have had them sign off on it, but you refused to do that. You went down your own road. And of course, the reaction was as we saw. But instead of actually, she has never at any stage here admitted that she has done anything wrong. It's always somebody else who was doing something wrong. She was a complete and utter victim in all of this. If that was true, then why did you sack Kwasi Kwarteng? See, she continues with this, look, it would have been a success. There was nothing wrong with the budget. It's not our fault. It was the fault of the Bank of England, everyone else. Then why did you sack Kwasi Kwarteng? Because it was obvious that the whole thing was falling apart. So he had to be the scapegoat. But then ultimately you had to take responsibility as well, because it couldn't be a case of just replacing Kwasi Kwarteng, because you had agreed with that. You had signed off on that. So you had to take responsibility as well. She has no sense of embarrassment whatsoever. She's just obviously offloading the responsibility onto everyone else, will never take responsibility herself, and of course will never apologize. People's mortgages went up as a direct result of this, which in turn drove up rents for many people. So British people are struggling still as a direct consequence of your shenanigans. And you're trying to once again blame everyone else but yourself. I would actually have more respect for her if she said, actually, we messed up, and here's what I would have done instead, or here's how I'd like to try and fix it. But no, it's all about, we did our best, nothing to do with us. The problem is the Bank of England. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.